Every perfect engineering involves some bits and pieces of compromise here and there, and the Piper Lance is no exception. But how good is the Lance? Since most of us lack an unlimited budget, we're often forced to choose between going fast in a relatively small cockpit or dragging around a larger cabin. The Go Fast airplane will get us to our destination sooner, but we might be forced to leave behind a few things or a few people. The slower large cabin bird gets us there just fine and lets us carry all the gear we need upon arrival. In the single-engine family airplane market, nothing compares to the Beech Bonanza, the Pipers M350, and the Pipers PA-32 Lance. If I refer to them as cars, the Bonanza is the BMW 5 Series wagon, the M350 is the Ford Explorer, and the PA-32R is the Chevy Suburban. If you're looking for the best combination of affordability, comfort, and performance, nothing beats the Lance. The Piper PA-32R, popularly known as the Piper Lance, came to life in the early 70s, when Piper suffered a flood that destroyed much of its Pennsylvania plant. Among the casualties was the tooling for the Comanche. Piper decided to abandon the Comanche in favor of a new airplane derived from the fixed-gear PA-32 Cherokee 6. The company was already having success with the Seneca, a light twin derived from the same airframe, so it made sense to build on a familiar design. Piper didn't do much to perfect the Cherokee 6, since the plane was already equipped with the 300-horsepower Lycoming IO540. The only change was to fit a retractable landing gear, which meant a new engine mount and changes to the wing design. The result was a 200-pound boost in gross weight to 3,600. The new airplane was dubbed the PA-32R Lance and introduced to the public in 1976. Piper's PA-32R borrows heavily from its siblings. The main landing gear is much like the Seneca, which is logical, since the basic airframe is the same, and the nose gear resembles the Seneca and also the Arrow. The PA-32R also came with the Piper's automatic extension system for the landing gear. The fuel system is similar to the Seneca's. Although it may be slightly slower than other aircraft of its class, it's known for being stable in instrument flying conditions and is able to carry its fair share of weight. The cabin is as comfortable as it gets, over 10 feet long and 3.5 feet high. Shoulder room for the front and center seats is 4 feet, 3.5 feet for the back row. Most models have club seating, and there's a big side door for the passengers, so they don't need to climb over a wing to enter the airplane. It's remarkably quiet. The rear seats are easily removed for cargo, and some owners just leave the rear ones at home most of the time. Because of the wide cabin, there's plenty of room on the panel for any gadget one might want. Other than that, it's a pure Piper single. Typical of single-engine airplanes, the Lance forces the pilot to choose between filling the cabin and filling the tanks. Still, an airplane of this size is quite practical when it comes to hauling, because carrying 4 with baggage and full fuel is possible. A total of 7 people can sit in the aircraft comfortably. Weight limitations must be taken into consideration, but the Lance is considered to be a true 6-seater, allowing all passenger seats to be occupied for a flight without weight or balance issues. The CG range is quite wide, but with only 2 people aboard, care must be taken to avoid exceeding the forward limit. One way to improve the T-Tail's squirrely handling reputation is to put 50 pounds in the aft baggage compartment to bring the CG aft into the center of range. A 7th seat is sometimes included, but its inclusion in the configuration can result in the aircraft becoming easily overweight. Because it came from a stretched-out Cherokee, the Lance is on the longer side in order to fit all the extra seats. With a length of 27 feet and 9 inches, the Lance is long enough for seats to be spread out appropriately and provide adequate legroom. The Piper Lance has an empty weight of 1,980 pounds and a gross weight of 3,600 pounds. This leaves a useful load of 1,620 pounds for variable weights like fuel, passengers, and baggage. This allows plenty of leeway for those who want to travel to faraway destinations with lots of bags. The Lance is equipped with a 300-horsepower Lycoming IO540 engine, equipped with a Hartzell constant speed prop. The constant speed gives more authority to the pilots in choosing their desired performance at altitude. It's not the fastest in its class, but what it gives up in speed, it makes up for in carrying capacity. Cruise speed at 75% power is 157 knots, but most pilots run it a little slower at 65% power to cruise at 142 knots for the best economy cruise, burning only 13 gallons per hour. The range is 875 nautical miles with 45 minutes IFR reserve. The service ceiling is 15,000 feet. This allows for a lot of leeway when it comes to flight planning, letting pilots choose an altitude that best suits their needs for winds and weather. Of course, the aircraft will need to be pressurized or have portable oxygen in order to cruise that high. Because of its T-tail, the Lance II has a significantly longer ground roll than the conventional tail models. The book shows a 1,650-foot ground roll under standard conditions and notes the roll will be 1/4 longer if the airplane is loaded toward its forward CG limit. The ground rolls for the Lance and SP are posted at 1,380 and 1,200 feet respectively. The initial rate of climb is over 1,000 feet per minute, not blazing compared to something like a Cirrus, but not terrible either. The climb rate is 1,000 feet per minute. It's not a lot, but it's enough to get you out of the airports nicely. Production for this plane ended in 2009, so there are no brand new models. In the used market, however, how much you spend will depend on the year and the condition of the one you find. I saw a 78 model listed for as little as $120,000 on controller.com, but I'll advise you to budget at least $200,000 for something nicely maintained with less time on the airframe. While the Piper Lance is an excellent performing aircraft that is appreciated by all its owners, it has its issues that need to be taken into consideration when purchasing the aircraft. The Piper Lance Turbo is the model with arguably the most issues. With its air search turbos and mechanically controlled wastegates, it's not uncommon for pilots to accidentally overboost the engine while applying too much throttle. The Piper Lance Turbo 2 has had its fair share of hot-running engines. The FAA created an airworthiness directive to resolve these issues, and luckily, the problem is no longer as prevalent as when the Turbo first debuted. An airworthiness directive was also released due to a series of engine fires on the Turbo Lance. The exhaust system of the aircraft needed to be inspected, and many were eventually replaced. Landing gear issues are also common, with cracked or broken nose gear actuators and trunnions. As a result, the aircraft need to be inspected carefully before every flight and during the annual inspection. The Lance doesn't exist in a vacuum. The Beech Bonanza is a strong competitor, which is arguably one of the best handling airplanes out there. Pilots rave about its easy controls and responses, making it an all-time favorite. It's also quick, outpacing the Piper Lance by a few knots. The Cessna 210 Centurion is faster than the Piper Lance and slower than the Bonanza, but when it comes to short field performance, the 210 leaves all of them in the dust. When put side by side with light loads, these three aircraft have close competition. However, when it comes to loading more, while it is on the slower side, the Piper Lance is still able to carry more bags and passengers while providing a decent amount of performance. If you need to fly high, fast, and over bad weather, the Piper M350 can be your own version of a Citation. It can comfortably seat up to 5 passengers over 1,000 miles at an altitude of 25,000 feet. If you want to go twin, the Diamond's DA62 is the most sorted-out family airplane out there. Its twin 180 horsepower Austro AE330 diesel engines burn less than 10 gallons per hour per side at maximum continuous power, propelling the airplane to a top speed of right around 200 knots. Pull the throttles back to 75% power, and the speed is still a respectable 187 knots with just 7.4 gallons per hour fuel burn each, so 14.8 gallons per hour. In conclusion, the Piper Lance is as practical as practicality gets. This sixth-place aircraft stands out in its class when it comes to comfort, providing ample legroom, and easily accessible seating. Pilots have mentioned the lack of climb performance at altitude. Because it can carry a significant amount of weight, the thinner air up high results in the Piper Lance not being able to put out as much power for a strong climb. Another issue would be that, fully loaded, the takeoff roll of the Piper Lance is significantly increased. This can result in difficult flight planning for the pilots, but nothing that's impossible. Some have mentioned that getting used to the length and nose of the Piper Lance can take some time. Some pilots find it frustrating in the beginning since they have difficulty seeing the runway. This can result in an uncomfortable takeoff for both the pilot and the passengers. If you like our videos, please smash the like and subscribe button. You can also join us by clicking on the link next to the subscribe button. Thanks for watching.